There are three basic tests that a woman puts a man through when she meets him, and 99% of the men that she will meet in her life cannot pass all three tests. Some guys can pass one test, some guys can pass two, but it's extremely rare for a woman to come across a guy who passes these three tests and therefore causes her to feel a huge rush of attraction for him, a feeling of just wanting to be with him and only him. Now, I'll point out that this applies to when you first start talking to a woman, when you're on a date with her, and when you're in a relationship with her, right? 99% of men cannot pass these three tests, and they either fail immediately or they fail soon enough. And if a guy fails in a relationship with a woman, then he can recover from that, and he can actually make her feel more attracted to him for the fact that he was able to overcome that issue and become stronger and more attractive to her. But if a guy fails when he's first talking to a woman, or if he's on a date with a woman, she can suddenly lose interest in him, right? They've been talking for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or maybe even 2 hours, and they've been getting along, and suddenly he says something or he reacts in a certain way, and she goes from smiling to, and she just changes all of a sudden. Suddenly she seems like she has lost interest in him, and he's thinking, what did I say? What did I do? So has that ever happened to you, right? You've been talking to a woman and everything seemed to be going fine, and all of a sudden she just suddenly loses interest based on something you've said or how you reacted to something. To help you understand how to avoid suddenly making a woman lose interest like that, it's important to point out to you that a woman's attraction for a man works differently to a man's attraction for a woman, right? So for most men, when they see a woman, it's very simple, right? Most men look at a woman, she's pretty, she seems friendly, yeah, I'd have sex with her, and hey, I might even have a relationship with her. It doesn't matter if she makes a few faux pas during the date. It doesn't matter if she seems a little bit nervous, a bit shy, a bit insecure. Doesn't matter if she says a couple of things that he isn't quite sure about. He finds her attractive, he wants to have sex with her. He's totally fine, he'll get with her, no problems. Yet for other men, it's even more simple than that. And that is, she looks pretty, yes, I'd have sex with her, and yeah, maybe even a relationship if I feel like it, right? It's just very simple. Yet women are different, and one of the reasons why is that a man's attraction for a woman is so simple, meaning that if a woman says yes to having sex, most guys would happily have sex with her. She can easily get sex, but it's much more difficult for her to find a man who she can actually have a successful relationship with, right? It's very easy to get sex, but having a successful relationship is another thing altogether. So women try to screen out guys who don't pass these particular tests, and you'll now understand why. So the three tests are about the guy's confidence level, interest level in her, and social intelligence. So I'll briefly talk about confidence and interest, and then I'll talk about a more important one that causes that sudden change in a woman where she's just goes inward and suddenly loses interest, and that is the guy's social intelligence. So first, confidence, right? Essentially, a woman wants to see that you're going to remain confident regardless of how she is behaving, right? So if she's showing you lots of interest and being nice and friendly, it's very easy to feel confident. But what about if she stops showing you as much interest during the interaction? What if she seems to lose a little bit of interest? How are you going to react? Are you suddenly going to become nervous and unsure of yourself? If so, that shows to her that you'll potentially be insecure in a relationship, and she would need to constantly show you that she loves you, feels attracted to you, and wants to be with you in order for you to feel confident, and that's not going to be fun for her because it results in a very clingy, overprotective, needy type of relationship. She's trying to avoid that. Next is interest level, right? So how interested is the guy in her? If she doesn't text him back, is he going to text her and follow through and make something happen? Or is he just going to give up and say, well, she didn't text me back, so therefore she's not interested, and hey, I don't really care, I'm not going to follow through, and so forth. In reality, the guy might actually be thinking that he might look needy for texting her and following through, but the woman is actually seeing that, okay, he's not interested enough in me to follow through and set up a date. If I don't reply to one of his texts or two of his texts, he's just going to give up. How interested is he? The same applies when first talking to a woman, for example, right? It's very easy if you're talking to a woman and she's always contributing to the conversation and asking you questions. It's very easy to stay in the conversation, but what do you do when she stops asking you as many questions? When she stops contributing as much to the conversation? Are you going to feel like, well, I don't really like this girl that much anyway. The conversation seems to be dying out a little bit. I'm just going to go talk to someone else and then leave the interaction. Or are you actually interested in her to the point where even if she's not continually asking you questions, are you actually going to stick with the interaction and keep it going? Or do you need her to constantly be showing you interest all the time, which goes back to the confidence test as well. Women often test a guy's interest because, as I said, it's very easy for them to get sex. If a guy's talking to a woman and she's showing him lots of interest during a conversation, it's very easy for him to stay in there. And if she shows interest in going home with him and so forth, or getting his number or meeting up with him, it's very easy for him to stay in there and do that. But how interested would he be if she wasn't encouraging him all the time? What she's worried about is he the sort of guy who's only talking to me because he wants to have sex with me once, all right, or maybe twice, and then he's not going to call me anymore? How interested is he really? So now on to social intelligence. All right, so a lot of guys can be confident during an interaction with a woman, and they feel like, hey, I'm a confident guy. I've heard that women find guys who are confident attractive. I'm being confident, therefore she should find me attractive. But she's also looking at something else. She's also looking at the guy's social intelligence and what that says about him as a person. Right? So when a man sees a woman, generally speaking, he can say, yep, I'd have sex with her. But a woman will say, but who is he? Like, what sort of guy is he? She isn't instantly going to just say, yes, I'll have sex with him. It doesn't matter what sort of guy he is. Doesn't matter what level of confidence he has. Doesn't matter how much interest he has in me. I just want to have sex with him. Yep, I'll have sex with anyone. And to help you understand why women are like that compared to men, it's important to understand that we don't need the same things from a woman that women need from us, right? As a man, you don't need a woman to protect you from the big bad world out there. I'm scared, mummy, protect me. You know, the thunder and lightning, oh, you get scared, you suddenly jolt and hug into her. Right, that's not you. You're a man, you're not scared of things like that. But have you ever noticed a woman when there's a loud noise all of a sudden, like a balloon pops or a glass drops and breaks or there's lightning? She will jump, she will get scared. Right, women are different to us. Additionally, when a woman walks through the world, she feels differently to a man. She doesn't walk through the world thinking that she can knock all these guys out and that she's so tough and so forth. Women aren't tough guys, right? Women actually feel quite vulnerable as they walk through the world. They could be attacked, they could be killed and so forth, and they don't really feel like they can protect themselves. They don't feel like we do. So the thing is, when a man looks at a woman, instinctively, he's not thinking, could she protect me? Would I feel safe with her? Like, could I cuddle into her and be protected from the big bad world out there? But a woman looks for a feeling of protection from a man, right? She looks to see how confident he can remain in a social situation, for example, when people aren't being encouraging, when people aren't reassuring him all the time. Is he able to maintain his confidence? Or is he the sort of guy that gets nervous and unsure of himself when people aren't reassuring him? And in terms of social intelligence, is he the sort of guy who understands how people work and as a result isn't the sort of guy that gets picked on or bullied or laughed at? Instead, he's a guy that gets respected. People sense that he's not a dummy, right? He's not wet behind the ears. And wet behind the ears basically means that it's almost like he's just been born, right? He still has all that fluid all over him, right? He's just basically a newborn. He doesn't understand how people work. And an example of it is if a guy is interacting with a woman on a date and they happen to be talking about touch and then it goes to tickling and the woman says, oh, I hate being tickled. And the guy doesn't understand that she's only saying that in a joking way. She's only saying that to be feminine and girly. She doesn't actually mean that I hate being tickled and therefore don't ever try to tickle me. Yet he's very wet behind the ears. So he says, oh yeah, no, I don't like tickling either. I mean, in fact, it's something that I've really disliked ever since I was a kid, and I certainly don't do it to women. She then realizes, okay, he's a dummy. Right? He doesn't get it. He doesn't understand that there are nuances in how people say things. It's not all black and white, right? Oh, I don't like to be tickled means I don't like to be tickled. No, those are two different expressions of the same words. Another example of a guy being wet behind the ears is that he'll be talking to a woman on a first date and she'll bring up some topics and give some opinions And he'll always be trying to change her mind about things because he just wants to show her how intelligent he is. And he's always trying to push her to think in a certain way versus occasionally giving her some different perspectives. But for the most part, just being more easygoing and allowing her to express some of her opinions, having a chat about it, adding in some humor, and creating a more light-hearted interaction between them. Right, so a guy might be on a first date with a woman and he's being confident and he's showing interest in her by continuing the conversation. But then there's the social intelligence aspect to it, where she gets the sense that if she got into a relationship with him, he might not actually allow her to feel free to be herself. She would have to always think the way that he wants her to think. Otherwise, he might make her feel stupid or something like that. Yet the thing is, generally speaking, if a man is on a date with a woman that he finds physically attractive and she's giving a lot of her opinions and trying to change his mind all the time, he will usually still want to have sex with her anyway, even if it's just once or twice. Generally speaking, if they were allowed, most men will have sex with a woman that they find attractive once or twice, even if it doesn't turn into a relationship after that. Most men aren't worried about the fact that it's just once or twice and will just happily have sex because they feel attracted to the woman. And most women know that. So most women will almost always try to avoid having sex with a guy who isn't compatible with them. They're usually trying to find a man who is more compatible with them, even if that means that it's only going to be a lover type of relationship, right? Even if she's only looking for a lover type of relationship, she still wants a guy who's going to be more compatible with her, rather than just a guy to have sex with for the sake of having sex. Yet most women are actually looking for compatibility in terms of a long-term relationship or a marriage, even if they don't admit that. Because instinctively deep down, a woman knows that if they have sex, there is potentially a chance that she could get pregnant, which is a lifetime of responsibility for her, right? She could end up being a single mother if she just has sex with a guy and she's not compatible with him. Or she could end up in a relationship that is unhappy if she has sex with a guy and he's not compatible with her. So the thing is, when it comes to women, you don't have to be perfect in order to attract her and be able to move things forward to sex and a relationship and then keep the relationship together. Instead, you just have to be attractive to her in that you are confident enough for a woman like her. You are interested enough in her to actually keep things moving forward, and you're not wet behind the ears in terms of your experience with women or understanding of women. Yet that then brings up a problem, right? The old chicken and egg problem. What came first, the egg or the chicken? Meaning that if you're not good with women already, then how can you do that? Right? How can you go from not being good with women to doing it right and therefore getting the results that you want with women? Well, there are essentially two paths that you can go down. You can try to figure it out by yourself by having lots of experiences with women, getting rejected, learning from it, and trying to do better. Or you can actually learn from someone like me who has figured it all out. And therefore you know what to do to make women feel attracted to you. You do that and you get the results you want. So I'll quickly point out here that if you want to learn my best ever techniques and insights and examples of how to attract women and naturally flow from one step to the next without getting rejected, then I recommend that you read my ebook, The Flow, or listen to the audiobook version. The Flow includes my best ever examples of what to say to start conversations, keep conversations going, make women feel attracted to you, initiate touch, initiate a kiss, initiate sex, get a date, have sex on the first night or sex on the first date. All of it. It's how to flow from one step to the next with a woman that you find attractive. So the thing is, from now on, you will notice that pretty much every guy a woman interacts with cannot pass the 3 tests that women put men through. Some guys will be confident when interacting with a woman, but then they'll make those social faux pas that suddenly cause the woman to lose interest. She suddenly senses, all right, he seems insecure. He seems like he would be needy in a relationship. He seems like he'd be too controlling. She suddenly loses interest. You'll also notice that a lot of guys are very good at showing interest in a woman, but then they lack confidence when they're interacting with her. They seem nervous, tense, and unsure of themselves. Additionally, you might notice some guys who are very socially intelligent. They are able to have a conversation with a woman, make her laugh, and not make social faux pas during the conversation, not come across as a potentially needy, controlling, insecure sort of guy. But then the guy doesn't show her much or any interest. Right, so she gets a sense of like, he doesn't even really like me. So what does she do? She then starts playing a little bit hard to get, right? She hopes that if she stops showing him as much interest, he's going to then feel like he's losing her interest and he has to show her interest. And if he then feels like he's losing her interest and starts to panic, what happens then? He comes across as a guy who can't maintain his confidence unless people are being reassuring. So he then fails the confidence test. And once again, it's important to understand that women need different things from men. We don't need women to be ultra confident in order to protect us, to make us feel like we'd be safe around them. We don't need that from women, but women need it from men. They look for it in men. So it's important to understand that women select men differently. And just a final point here, the thing is, some guys feel like it's not fair, right? Why do women have it so easy? You can just look at her, you want to have sex with her, she doesn't have to do anything. Why do we have to be confident, right? Why can't women just like me because I'm a good guy? It's important to understand that women represent a natural challenge for us men. It's not something that a guy should cry about, complain about, or get angry about. Instead, it's an opportunity to level up as a man, right? You become stronger, you become more switched on. You become a man who can handle himself in social situations. So women are a natural challenge for us men, and that is a benefit to us as well. It's a benefit to them in terms of they push us to become more confident, to be more courageous, to be more brave, to be able to handle ourselves in the world, and that makes them feel safe. But it also makes us feel better about ourselves because we're more confident, we're more capable, we can handle ourselves as we go through the world.